Please welcome Gregory Wrightstone.
Thank you so much. It's good to be back here at PLC after a couple of year absence. You might be interested before we get started. I've been deluged with interview requests today. You may not have heard there was a 4.8 earthquake in New Jersey. So I'm a geologist. They want to talk to me about it. So I've got about umpteen Newsmax and other interviews we've been doing. I'll make one prediction for you. By the end of the day, Al Gore, John Kerry, and the other climate grifters that are being funded by the climate industrial complex will tie the earthquake to climate change. So I can guarantee you that. You just heard the last speakers talk about Reggie's being appealed. I'm not going to talk to you today about how it's going to drive up energy costs, but it will. I'm not going to talk to you about it's going to drive industry out of Pennsylvania, and it will. I'm not going to talk to you about how it's going to do anything to improve the environment, and it won't. What I'm here today to talk to you about is the justifications that they're using to push this on us. And what are they talking about? They're justifying this by this demonization of carbon dioxide. What they're doing is they're saying, this is the reason they're doing these programs. They're saying because of CO2-driven warming, we're increasing flooding, we're increasing drought, so too much rain, not enough rain, increased health risks, sea level rise. So what I'm going to do today is just walk you through all these claims. If these things are not happening, and there is no climate crisis, there is no need to do Reggie or the other program he's talking about that will be economically crippling. A lot of this was drawn from our recent report, Pennsylvania's Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, Why Reggie is a Solution in Search of a Problem. We were deep in fighting Reggie over the last few years. I've testified before the Senate, before Darrell Metcalf's Energy and Environmental panel. We fought that. And we're happy to be part of killing it. And what's their justification? What they're doing right now, because of these false claims, they're trying to restrict your freedoms. They're trying to control every single aspect of your life. They've already regulated away incandescent bulbs. They've already told you how much water can be used in your toilet, how much water comes out of your shower. Now they're trying to regulate what you can drive, how you heat your home, and just every other aspect of your life. Why? Because of this demonization of carbon dioxide. So let's take a look at it. Before the Industrial Revolution, I'm not going to give you too many numbers. It was 280 parts per million. Today it's 420, and it's from burning fossil fuels. And I'm okay with that because you can see that CO2 increases are hugely beneficial, and I enjoy living a high carbon lifestyle, and I'm going to continue doing it, and I sleep well at night. So is there a climate crisis in Pennsylvania? Well, I'm going to give you data that's actually from the United States Historic Climate Network, from NOAA. Bear in mind that the data you see artificially inflates and warms the modern temperatures while cooling the past temperatures, which actually accentuates any warming you do see. So just take into account, but this is actual government data. This is Pennsylvania's average temperature. The data you see here starts in 1895 and goes up until the end of last year, 2023. And you'll see here the red is the temperature. Anything you see that's blue is carbon dioxide. So this goes from 1895 until just a few months ago. What does that look like to you? I don't see a climate crisis there, do you? We're seeing basically flat temperatures over the last 125 years. What about maximum temperatures? This is Pennsylvania data specific. Maximum temperatures in Pennsylvania, flat. They're not increasing. And this is why they're telling us we have to do something. We need to impose carbon taxes. We need to drive up your energy costs because of this. There is no climate crisis in Pennsylvania. There's no huge increase. What about the heat waves? This is a chart showing Pennsylvania, the percentage of days above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. It peaked in the 1930s. 90 years ago, we saw more heat waves by far than what we have today. So we're seeing that our average temperature is not increasing wildly. Our heat waves are decreasing, actually. So let's take a look. Heat wave fact check. It's false and misleading. The other big thing is drought. Drought's the most impactful weather event if you look over the last several thousand years. This is annual precipitation in Pennsylvania showing a modest increase in precipitation, not quite looking like a drought. In agriculture, a little bit of extra rain is hugely beneficial, but it certainly does not back up their claims of drought, which will then affect agriculture. And this is the Palmer Drought Severity Index for Pennsylvania. The green at the top means less drought. The orange at the bottom means more drought. Once again, this is the Palmer Drought Severity Index that's from NASA, and it's showing, again, a decrease in drought. So we've seen that heat waves, false, droughts, false. Fact check, false and misleading on droughts. So is flooding increasing in Pennsylvania? I had a chance to look at hundreds of records that we could get from different stations. And I said, let's just look at the key ones. So I looked at 3 rivers in Pittsburgh. This is the Ohio River flood crest per decade declining. They're claiming flat out that floods are increasing because of climate change. We see the Allegheny at Franklin, again, flood crest per decade declining. Bucks County, Pennsylvania, amount of floods per year decreasing. We could go through dozens of these to see similar events. So flooding fact checked, false and misleading. So does Pennsylvania have increasing health risks due to worsening pollution? This is from the EPA, this is national air pollution. We see all the major air pollutants have been in significant decline. They're still declining, but not at the rate that we were, because our air is actually so clean, it's hard to clean it up much more without doing expensive work on this. We also know, we're being told that deaths and heat-related mortality will increase, but the largest temperature-related study of its kind looking at temperature-related mortality, Dr. Antonio Gasparini looked at 74 million temperature-related deaths. He found that 20 times as many people die from cold as from heat. Another recent study said it was 15 times as many die from cold as to heat. So what does that tell me? Global warming would save lives. Global warming saves lives. We can state that, it just does. The number of people die due to colder, it's multiples of that due to heat. The air pollution is significantly better. Both our air and our water probably are cleaner today than they've been in 150 years. Think back in the 1960s, Lake Erie was a cesspool. They called it a dead lake. Nothing was living there. The 3 rivers of Pittsburgh, where I just moved from, to the free state of Florida, I might add. You know, there were some catfish, but not much else lived there. They're holding Bassmaster fishing tournaments at the 3 rivers in Pittsburgh. Lake Erie is now a wonderful hotspot for fishing. So is agriculture in Pennsylvania declining? This is probably the greatest benefit we've seen from modest warming and more CO2. This is corn production in black. Red is temperature, blue is carbon dioxide. Look at that. This goes back to 1961. Corn is the #1 agricultural product in the United States and in Pennsylvania. They're marching in lockstep. It's getting warmer, there's more CO2. Warmer means longer growing seasons. Killing frosts and earlier in the spring arrive later in the fall. Carbon dioxide increases fueling crop growth. It's a really, really good story. Here's another Pennsylvania corn silage. Again, breaking records year after year. And just look at milk production. Again, breaking records year after year. This is in my new book. The red line is food production. This is global. The blue line is population, global population. Look at that. Our food production in the world is greatly outpacing population growth. That's a huge, huge statement. We hear a lot of times people claiming we've got too many people. And again, this is the length of growing season in the continental United States because warming is lengthening the growing season. We've added 2 weeks to the growing season since 1900. That is really, really, really good. If you've got an apple orchard or a fruit orchard, what do you fear the most? Late spring killing frosts, right? That could just wipe you out for the year. Because of this, in a longer growing season, you have less risk of that. Deforestation, we hear a lot about that. No, it's reforestation. We see it globally. What's happened in Pennsylvania? There's been a 5.3 increase in standing timber and forests in Pennsylvania since 1953. So much for deforestation here. And what would we do if we actually went to net zero in Pennsylvania? So I used the magic simulator here created by NASA to look at this. And if we had gone to net zero in 2010, we would avert 0.003 of a degree Fahrenheit by 2050 an 8,000th of a degree Fahrenheit by 2100. I mean, that's way below anything we could measure. It's closer to zero than it is anything we can measure. So what they're doing is they're imposing these harmful, economically restrictive solutions that we call a solution in search of a problem. So if you've driven the turnpike over the last few years, you may have seen one of our billboards. So we say, sleep well, there is no climate crisis. And once again, I want to assure you, if you're living a high carbon lifestyle, you can sleep well, because what we're seeing is a very convenient warming. I call it the greatest untold story of the 21st century, that of a thriving Earth and a thriving of the human condition, and we should celebrate that. So thank you very much.